Hey everyone, welcome to Codenado. Today we're going to be looking at an introduction to SQLite 3, and in this video we're going to be doing 5 main things. We're going to learn how to import our SQLite 3 to Python, and we're going to be creating a connection to our database. We're going to be creating a cursor to fetch out certain data from the database and the tables, and we're going to be creating a table, and we're also going to be inserting data into our table. So I'm on PyCharm and I created a new Python file called SQL tutorial. And the first thing you want to do is import SQLite 3. You don't need to put this in any command prompt or anything because it should have already came with Python. So next we're going to be creating our connection, and a common variable for this is con, or con with two n's, and we're going to be doing SQLite 3 dot connect, and this is where we're going to be connecting to our database. And I'm going to call this one test dot db, and you probably already guessed db stands for database. So once we've got that, we are going to be creating our cursor. Cursor is pretty much similar to creating our connection. We're just going to create our variable, and we're going to be using our connection to create our cursor. So now we're going to be creating our table. So we're going to be using our cursor to execute and create the creation of this table. And for this, we're going to be using a docstring because it's a lot more helpful when you have multiple lines, and it makes it more organized. And you'll see what I mean in a second. So here we have our docstring, and you would create this but with 3 single quotation marks. So we're going to, in all caps, this is cap sensitive, we're going to create table, and we'll just do this. So let's not make it the same as our database. Let's just say values. And we'll just do. And this part, your table name has to be lowercase. So now that we have our docstring, there's 2 ways to approach this next one. You could just put it on a single line, or you could just spread each row and column in separate lines. So I like to keep it more organized like that. And just gonna do it like this. So here we're gonna have 2 main things when we're typing our sections in our table. So we're gonna have the name of each row, and we're also gonna have the data type that's gonna be imported into that row. So there are actually 3 main data types, and you have a null, you have your integers, you have real, and that is the floating point value, and you have your text, which is the most commonly used, just like if you're going to be importing like a username or something like that. And you also have blob. So here we're going to just be using text. So let's just create 2 rows. Let's create an first name row, and this is our data type for this is going to be text, and we want to put a comma, and then when we create our next one, we're going to name this last name, and our data type is going to be text. Alright, so once we've created our table, we're just going to see how this runs. So let's make sure we run this one. Alright, so I'm pretty sure the problem we have here is we need to commit our connection, and then we need to close it to let it know that we are done using the table. So now let's try running it. So actually just try to make it into a single line. Because for some reason it's not. Oh, I think I know what the problem is. Go back to where we were. And just put our quotation mark, our parentheses here. Running it, and okay. So we just need to add the end, so I think that was the problem, and alright, so it created our table last time when I created this error, and it's saying that the table already exists, because each time we run this program, we're basically creating a new table because of this. That's called val for values. So what we do is we do if not exists, and this will only create the table if it doesn't already exist. Otherwise, it'll just go through how it is. So let's just make sure we've got what we need to. So I'm just going to put print done, so we'll know that our program has finished and our table has been created. So there. So we have successfully created our table. So now we need to insert values into our table. So how we're going to do that is it's pretty much almost similar to how we created our table. We're going to be using the cursor.execute. And we're going to be putting this in double quotation marks. And we're going to use insert into. And it's very important that you put this in all caps. And then our name for our table, which is VAL, is going to be lowercase, and we're just importing our values, and that has to be capitalized as well. So now we're going to, in parentheses, we are going to be putting in our values. So we are just going to type, let's say, we need to type the values that are going to correspond with our row name. So for first name, let's put, and we need to put this in single quotes because we already have double quotes on the outside. And let's put Samuel, and then we're going to separate this. So this is our first name, and then for our last name, we're going to put another value. And you can't put an integer because our data type is text. So we can only put a string in our values. So now when we run this, yes, it ran successfully. So that's pretty much it for this video. And in the next video, we'll see how to extract data and print out on the screen just to see if it's actually imported into our table, which is in our database. So what did we learn today? We learned how to import SQLite 3, and it already comes with Python, so there's no need to go into your terminal or command prompt and import it there. We also learned how to create a connection and also how to create our database. And we just used this test. I just made this test database, and it really doesn't matter what you call this database. And we also learned how to create a cursor, which is going to be creating our table, inserting our values, and it's going to be also, as we'll see in future videos, selecting our data from our table. So we learned how to create a table, we learned how to insert values into our table. We also learned how to what the different types of data types are, which is once again null, integer, real, text, and blob. So that's just the second part of creating our table. And we also learned how to commit our connection and close it. So that's pretty much what we did in this video, and we'll learn how to select values from our table in the next video. Thanks for watching.